If sewing is your newest hobby, let me introduce you to 30 materials and tools you're going to need in your sewing space. So stay until the end and let's see if you know them all. If you're new around here, my name is Irene, and in this channel I sew anything really. Clothes from scratch, accessories, DIY, decor, mending, upcycling, anything really. So consider subscribing and follow me also on Instagram. And we're going to start, of course, with needles. We're going to need needles to sew by hand and with the machine. And even though there are different kinds of needles depending on the fabric you're going to sew, you can have the normal ones like the cotton basic ones, and then from then on you can add to your collection. And if sewing is joining clothes with needle and thread, that's the next thing you're going to need, thread. I sew with cotton thread because I inherited loads of them, but the best one you can get if you're starting is polyester because it's really durable and you won't have any problems with it. But of course, there are many kinds of threads depending on what you're going to sew. But start with that one. And to protect our fingers when sewing by hand, we're going to need thimbles. I'm not a fan of thimbles, or I wasn't that much, but nowadays I am because they are ergonomic ones. This one is silicone, for example. So they're really comfy, there's no excuse to have a thimble. A good pair of scissors is basic in your sewing room. These are not steel tailor scissors, but they are really comfortable. They are really ergonomic and your hand doesn't get tired when cutting something thicker, some of a thicker fabric. So these are ideal. They are really nice. And of course, your scissors are meant just to cut fabric. So don't cut anything else so you don't mess the edge. And these little cast steel scissors are ideal in your sewing room. If you don't have one of the bigger ones, these ones still cut a lot and they are really comfy and handy to use. And this pair of scissors are a bit extra, but I love them. These are pinking shears and they have this zigzag edge that cuts really nicely and finishes your edge so it doesn't fray. It's amazing how well it works, but I love it. So if you don't have an overlock like me, these are really handy to have. They were my grandma's. And once your sewing is done, you're going to have to cut threads, and the best one to use is this little one, your embroidery scissors. These are ideal because they are really tiny and you can get right in the seam without cutting anything else. So these are really handy and comfy to use. And talking about seams, sometimes we have to undo them, and for that we have our friend the seam ripper. Or our enemy, it depends. It depends on the day. But it's really useful because you can rip your seams, but you have to be really careful because you can rip, I've ripped fabric as well, and my hand sometimes, my flesh. So be careful when you use it and use the protective side on the bottom so you don't rip more than you want. And to keep our pieces of fabric in place, we're going to use pins, of course. Again, there are different kinds of pins. I have basic ones, but it's true that when you have a thinner fabric like this one, sort of silky fabric, if you have a thick pin, is going to damage your fabric. So it's better to have different kinds, but again, you can start with the basic ones. And of course, you're going to need a pin cushion. You can use almost anything as a pin cushion, but it's quite handy. I used to have my pins in a tin, I still have it, but you have to look for the head of the pin, which is slow. So this one is more useful. I have two of them. And in measuring tools, we have the ruler and we have, of course, the measuring tape. The ruler is really useful because you can trace straight lines and you can measure things as well with this, obviously. And the measuring tape is basic. You cannot have your sewing kit without a measuring tape. And to mark measurements, buttonholes, anything on your fabric, you're going to need your tailor's chalk or anything that you can use for that. In the haberdashery, there's lots of different things you can use, and people even use some pens that you can erase with heat. So those are really useful as well. Anything. And one thing we are not going to avoid is ironing. We need to iron our fabric before cutting anything, so the cuts look good. And then of course we need to press our seams and do lots of different things with it, so just don't forget about it. And to iron, of course, you're going to need your ironing board, or for example, I don't have one here because it doesn't fit, but I iron on mats. I have this little felt mat for small things, and I have a big one I made a few years ago. It's really useful because I iron on here on my cutting table, and you can do the same if you do it on your dining table or on a desk. It's really useful to have one of these. And let's go on with the extras. Maybe when you start sewing, of course, you're going to start with the basic stuff and on the safety side. But then you can even try to use some elastic thread. This is really nice, and you can make beautiful dresses for summer with this gathering. And for winter, for autumn, for anything. And one tool loved by many is the rotatory cutter, which looks like a pizza cutter. And it's ideal for patchwork, for little pieces, because it gives you really straight cuts and very clean edges. And Velcro doesn't look like it, but it's really useful to have it at home, to have in your stash, because you can use it for backpacks, for little toiletry bags. A lot of projects can be done with this. And after trying Velcro, when you feel ready, you can start with zips and with buttons, because they give you amazing results and finishes. And you don't have to fear them, it's just a matter of getting used to them. And one little tool I've been loving to use is this snaps machine. It's really nice, and it gives you nice professional look results, and it's really easy to use. And one thing you're going to be stashing is on ribbons and strap fabrics and cords, because they're always really useful when you have one. Maybe you have some left, and it's always good to have for any project that is kind of a surprise one. And to trace your patterns, even if it's the simplest thing, you're going to need your paper, your pattern paper. It's really useful because it's almost see-through, so you can trace on it without any problems at all, and mark all the little things you need to mark. So it's always good to have by hand. And to keep your pattern paper in place, you're going to use pins, but maybe, well, you can even break your paper by using them. So it's better to have some pattern ways. This I made myself, but you can use almost anything as pattern ways. You can use pebbles, you can use yes, any little rocks or anything you have, antique irons, anything really. So go ahead and get some. And if you get into pattern maker, the best thing you can get is your French curves. These are really useful because they give you the curves on almost anything, your armhole area, or maybe this for the side of skirts and waistlines. They are really useful, and you won't regret getting them. We talked about the iron before, and now we have extras for it as well. Starting with the hemming tape. It's really useful to hem, but not just to leave it like that, just to keep the fabric in place and then sew on top. It's ideal. I've used it for facings when they move a lot and you don't know what to do, and it's good to have by hand. Interfacing, I love interfacing. It's really good. It makes anything you stick it too harder, and it's easy to use because you have to just press it on the fabric you want to use, because it has glue on one side, so it's really handy. And there's even one with both sides with glue, so just try it. And one thing you don't know you miss until you have them is your tailor's cushions. They are really useful. There's the little one for small seams and curves, there's the arm, and there's the tailor's ham. It's really easy to make. It's filled with wood dust, and it's really useful because the seams look really crisp and nice. And if you're not interested in making patterns because you want something to sew something in a more fluid way, you can always get yourself an adjustable mannequin. It's ideal. You throw your fabric on it, you start pinning, and beautiful things come out. So it's an investment, but it is worth it. And of course, you don't obviously need all of this at once. You are not going to start sewing and getting all of this. It's impossible. It's ridiculous. You just need to start sewing and getting the basics, and from there you add what you're going to use. If you start sewing zips, you get a few of them. If you start sewing buttons and things like that, you start little by little and adding to your stash. You don't need all of them from the first day. And of course, keep your tools and your materials organized so they are easy to find. I know I have my scissors all together, my ironing and pressing stuff is all together, and things like that, all the zips, all the buttons, and that way they'll be easy to find and to keep. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments which is your favorite, and if you have one you're in love with and you're going to get very, very soon. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and all of those, so we can get to more people. And I leave you, and I'll see you soon. Bye.